Auckland Grammar and Tamaki Makaurau, and those watching from the comfort of your homes, including one Grant Clark in Bogota, Colombia, who we've been told specifically to shout out again. This is the final game of our series, Tri-Series New Zealand, Australia, and we've finished the Open Division. 3 strong performances by both sides, resulting in some impressive wins by the New Zealand Cutsball. But now our final match is going to be between Kahu, the under-20 women's team, and the under-20s Japanese women's team. It's been a fantastic weekend of Ultimate. The weather starting to dry up a little bit before this final match. Make sure conditions are optimal for the best disc available to watch in the Southern Hemisphere. Japan just warming up at the moment. New Zealand already in a huddle, raring to go. My name, as always, is Blair Munro. It is a huge pleasure to be here, to be your eyes and ears on the ground, to talk you through what's happening, to provide commentary and context as some of the best athletes in the Southern Hemisphere pour it on for your viewing pleasure. Working with Ulti TV as always, and supported by New Zealand Ultimate. If you want to support our youth athletes as they cut their teeth against some great teams from overseas, New Zealand and Australia, please check the link in the description. Buy a virtual ticket to an event like this and help us bring you events like this in the future. Japan break their huddle with a cheer. New Zealand looking to come out on defense. The last few moments of peace and calm before these two titans clash. New Zealand currently undefeated from 3 games. 2 against Australia, 1 win against Japan. Japan, 2 wins over Australia. A game to 15 to close out our series. Just moments away from the opening pull. Coaches clearing the field now. Those last minute words of advice for the 7 players on the line. Kat Fulton with the disc. Simard, Stacey Mather, Zara Bowen, Claridge, Murgatroyd. Kat Fulton, big pull, sends it up. Fielded by Shimizu. New Zealand coming down in that zone offense they've used to great effect this weekend. Hirase as support. Fires one across field to Nasu. Back to Shimizu. Neida in the deep space as the wind drops. Hata with the disc. An opportunity for an early gain. Shimizu puts one up. Neida with the disc. Fires back to Shimizu. Through the zone. Nasu fakes off. Really short movement, puts a high blade up. Great score for Japan to start us off. Eguchimana with the score. Great work by Japan to kick off this game. That clinical, precise movement. When we've seen New Zealand during this series so far, they typically use a lot more of the width of the field. They try and throw leading passes to run on. The Japanese are slightly more tight style. They play a very sort of small ball offense, looking to hit those narrow gaps. Lots of shorter cuts to chip away at the defense, working their way up the field. And used to great effect there. Number 33 for the Japanese side, Shimizu, taking every second or third pass, gaining yards a few at a time, working their way through that New Zealand zone. New Zealand to come out on offense now. Whitlock, Brown, Lewis, Lawson. The disc touches down with a bit of a roll. Whitlock picks up early, working with Clark. Works the far sideline, finds Swinson. Marked by Sugimoto. Goes over the heads of Lewis, who's going to get there. Georgia Brown for New Zealand with the layout grab. Great play. Clark with the disc. Puts one through. Great block by Yoshida. Kawaguchi Mai, Tsumiura. Great attempt by Yoshida to pull that one down, but the disc goes a little bit high, gives New Zealand back possession. Emma Whitlock to pick up. Marked aggressively. Clark, marked by Goto. Clark again, working the far sideline with Swinson. Early reset to Clark. Whitlock creating space under. Turns it back into an upline cut. Gets the disc. Puts a big forehand up for Lewis for the score. Great work by New Zealand to go 1-1. Teams trading. Great work by the New Zealand side. Generating those turns, going back the other way. Able to close that point out. Great pressure by the Japanese defense, managing to slow them down, generating that turn early. Getting an opportunity to work back the other way. Claridge with the disc to pull for New Zealand. Waiting for the response. The Japanese offensive side are ready. Puts up a big disc. Once again, Shimizu Hirase initiating the offense, puts a big shot up. Slightly overthrows Niida. Claridge to pick up. Pressured by Oguchi. Wants to put a forehand up line. Finds Grant. Nasu pressures the around. It goes a little high, but Claridge gets it anyway. Pressure from the Japanese defense forces a high shot. Sawyer comes down with it. Very close to the end zone. Despite a great bid, a nice attempt from Ogura to shut that down at the end zone. It doesn't come away. New Zealand with a break. 2-1 to New Zealand. The drizzle starting again. Conditions slowly worsening. But there's nowhere I'd rather be than here in the rain to watch some of the very best ultimate in the Southern Hemisphere being played for your viewing pleasure. Supported by Ulti TV at Auckland Grammar on their ultimate turf, being used quite occasionally by their football team. Zara Bowen with the pull. Shimizu Hirase again. Supported in the upfield space by Ogura. New Zealand throwing down a zone offense. Trying to test the Japanese patience, but they're able to chip through. Ogura near sideline. Bowen overcommits. Japan slowly able to work away from the sideline. Hirase in the midfield. Hata with the disc. Shimizu finds Nasu, center field. Ogura takes to the skies to get that one. Bowen can't stop it. Nasu blades one across, but Grant gets in the way. Back to Bowen, near sideline. Marked by Ogura. Clark. Hirase with a great run through block. Finds Ogura. Covered by Clark, has to reset to Shimizu. That upline's not going to come. Hirase, Hata. Back to Hirase. Puts the big backhand up. Who's got the read? The wind has it, carries it out of reach. Murgatroyd initiating a deep cut, pulls Shimizu, comes back under, puts a forehand up of her own. Nasu nearly in position, but it's Swinson who comes down with it. Around to Murgatroyd, out of the fingertips. Shimizu pushing deep, trusting Hirase to pick up and initiate. Nice attempt at a reset, but Clark's going to get a hand to it. Great pressure from the Japanese defense. Puts one up, but Swinson comes down with it. Nasu gets a hand to that one. It wobbles, but Clark comes down with it anyway. Mather pressured by Hata, but Mather's come down with it. Works up the far sideline. Shimizu pressures Murgatroyd for the turn. Japan to take possession. Shimizu puts up a big shot looking for Niida. Bowen spooks with the early jump. And that's going to be enough to generate a turn back for New Zealand. A great take over the head of Swinson. Eguchi shuts that one down. Shimizu to pick up and initiate. Lots of pressure from the defense, but she's able to find Eguchi on the far sideline. Back to Shimizu, marked by Murgatroyd. Hirase and Nasu both cutting for the disc. Hirase gets the reset. Ogura's there as an option. Pressured by Bowen, it doesn't come. Forced to put one through to Hata. Works back on the far sideline. Shimizu to Hata. Shimizu again. Ogura has it, marked by Bowen. Patiently, the Japanese offense finds Hirase, puts a blade up, touch by Stacey Mather for the defense. Qatar finds Bowen. Puts a big one up. King Griffin, marked by Iguchi, has that forehand up that far line, but there's no cutters developing. Has to go back around, finds Clark. Murgatroyd's an option. Doesn't come, finds Swinson, far sideline. McCoy going deep. Clark has the disc, she puts up the forehand, there's an opportunity here. And McCoy comes down with it. New Zealand up by 2, the score 3-1. Great pressure by the Japanese defense, but New Zealand walk away with the point. New Zealand defense once again takes the line. 7 players hoping to pressure the Japanese offense. A very patient offense, a very skilled offense. Working very, very hard. New Zealand send up the pull. Abe Kawaguchi. Against that New Zealand zone. Working hard. Ogilvy pressuring the disc with Brown. But Goto was able to chip through. Working with Kawaguchi on the inside. Goto again. Those big fakes able to shift the defense. Goto once more, the zone isn't shutting it down. Back to Abe, Miura's there. An opportunity for a read. Pulls it down right inside the far sideline. Great work. Goto has it. Working back with Miura. To Abe. Kawaguchi takes to the ground to pull that one up. Yoshida's there as a reset. Just goes beyond the hands of Abe. Edge down on that disc, generates a turn. New Zealand can work back the other way. Whitlock puts it up big. A great bid by Brown, but it's not going to be enough. Japan now with the disc. Not quite enough to keep that one in possession. Whitlock fires back. Brown again underneath it. But it's Samad who comes down with the disc, despite great coverage from the Japanese defense. The score now 4-1. New Zealand up by 3. Game to 15. Kat Fulton with the disc, doing a lot of work for the New Zealand defence line. Big pull. Touching down just in bounds with a little bit of edge, some nice roll. Japan takes a second to get into position. Hirase, Shimizu, Ogura in the upfield space. Nasu making herself available. Weber on the defense, heading the zone with Sawyer and Claridge. Hata with the disc. Shimizu, Hirase, Ogura again. Nasu wanted to send one deep for Eguchi. Hata, Hirase, Shimizu. Nasu. Oh, nearly. Ogura, some quick gained yards. Working back, using the width. They're well within range now. But Nasu isn't able to keep that one off the turf. Eguchi was hungry for a deep shot. Bowen with the disc. About to unleash that cannon of a forehand. Looking for Claridge. Finds her on the far sideline. Niida on the mark. Hirase pressuring the reset, but it doesn't come. We go for a long shot. Everybody wants it, but Big Bowen comes down with it. Those teal cleats doing the most. The score is 5-1 in favor of New Zealand. We see a couple of cheeky worms out on the field. That's one heck of a celebration. And looks like a timeout has been called. The drizzle starts to settle in. Japan hoping to shut down the momentum for the New Zealand side. Wanting to slow them down. Japan starting off the game with a point. New Zealand 5 on the bounce. Momentum heavily in favor of Kahu, the under-20 New Zealand women's side. In this last match of our tri-series, this is the second time New Zealand have faced Japan, sorry. They did face Australia twice, as did Japan. Both matches, they came away with winners. So far, New Zealand ahead by one victory over Japan. Japan hoping to make things right. End the game on an even footing with the Kahu side. So one has to wonder, what changes are the Japanese side hoping to make that's going to allow them to come out after this half-time, or not half-time, sorry, this timeout, really pour on the energy. The Japanese side so far have exhibited great patience in their offense. They've really got some good work from those handlers. Those three core players, Hirase Haoto, Shimizu Ryu, and Ogura Tomomi, doing a great work in moving the disc back and forth across the field out the front of that New Zealand defensive zone. And then having that support from Hata and Nasu, making those great undercuts, just helping them to take those yards, finding those holes in that zone. But some of those tight throws are where those turnovers are coming from. Really firing laser beams straight at the receiver. It puts a lot of pressure on the receiver to get that, whereas those discs that are thrown out to space, those leading passes that we're seeing from the New Zealand side, they tend to give the receiver a lot more room to run onto the disc and just really focus in on that catch. Brown and Murgatroyd with the disc. And there's the pull high into the far side. Touches down inbounds. Shimizu to start. Gao, Swinson, and Ogilvy firing up the arrowhead zone to try and shut down the Japanese offense. Ogura with the disc. Shimizu, Harase, puts a big backhand up. Goto's underneath it. Checks to make sure Alicia McCoy is okay. And a foul called. There was contact on the play. Just a little bit of discussion as to the contact. So looks like it will be an accepted foul. Japan to retain possession. Goto with the disc. Looks back to find Hirase Haoto. Shimizu to Ogura. Nasu. Ogura working the far sideline. The zone clamps in. Japan swings back the other way. Hirase puts a backhand up. One-handed grab for Goto. Niida was on the side, pressured. Oh, tries to get a jump in from Hirase, but it's a little too tight. Murgatroyd puts one up. Great work by Shimizu. Quick snap up the sideline to Nasu. Back to Shimizu as the zone clamps down. Ogura to Goto. Hey, there it is. Great work by Japan. Nasu for the score. 5-2. Great work by Japan. Sono yo nahageshisa. Such intensity on display by the Japanese side. It's exactly the kind of patience we were hoping to see from the Japanese team. They've put it on display this entire series, connecting those passes together. And they're able to string them down. And Kahu were cheering this before. Chili O, Psycho D, every disc belongs to me. But on that point in particular, it was the Japanese side who demonstrated that ethos. Very patient offense. And then Shimizu, number 33 for the Japanese side, managing to run through out the front of Gao with a clean grab. Japan sending up a big pull, a little bit of roll, but Whitlock Fields finds Bowen. Japan coming down in a zone defense. They give up the width. Clark has the disc, but forced to work back with Whitlock. Finds Bowen far sideline, puts one up for Lewis, but it's a drop. An opportunity now for Japan to slowly close the margin. Hata going deep. There it is. Oh, the pressure from Clark, just enough to make Hata second guess her cut. She slowed down to attack early, but the disc had the length. Whitlock has it. Goto, just enough pressure to shut down Brown. Goto tries to find Ogura in center field, but Brown manages to get a hand on it. Bowen pressured by the zone, but finds Clark on a shallow under. To Whitlock. Right back through the middle. Kobayashi applying pressure to the disc, having to go wide to find Lawson. Threads one through to Bowen on the far sideline, unpressured, big forehand. Great chase down by Simard. Subarashi Bogyo. Great defense by the Japanese to generate that turn. An opportunity on offense now to go back the other way. Whitlock on the mark. Japan setting up out of a vertical stack. Abe to Ogura. Wide to Goto. Nothing happening in the deep space. Hata sends one deep. Goes over the hands of Eguchi. Bowen quick to try and fire back. Kobayashi helps to set the zone, supported by Abe and Ogura. Lawson catches her own tip a second time. Puts one through to Clark. There's the big forehand. Simard wants the read, but it's Eguchi underneath. Eguchi to secure it. Hata pressured by Bowen. Kobayashi developing a deep cut. Finds Ogura on the far sideline. Great shimmy to shift Brown. Eguchi, far sideline, pressured by Samad, calling for cuts. Finds Ogura with a big backhand. Kobayashi's underneath it. Who's got the read? Kobayashi! Nante Subarashi Suku Awadeshu. What an amazing score by the Japanese side. 5-3, a 2-point game. Huge plays. Ogura far sideline with a monster backhand, finding Kobayashi wide open in the deep space. An absolutely fantastic score. We have a game on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. A huge thank you to the Australian contingent who joined us this weekend for a fantastic Trans-Tasman and Tri-Series event. The Australians have departed to catch their early flights home. It is just New Zealand versus Japan, the last game of the weekend. There's no need to save your energy anymore, ladies. Leave it all out on the field. Put on a big show. Show us what the best athletes in the country can do. Kawaguchi with the disc. Big pull for Japan. Sends it long, touches down just in bounds. What a great pull. It's going to give Japan a lot of positional advantage. But Claridge is able to find Fulton. 10-on-10 matchup. The forehand goes a little high. Gal wants it. She gets it. Puts a forehand of her own up. For Sawyer, 6-3. Great score by New Zealand. Slowly widening the margin, keeping the game comfortably in their hands at the moment. But as the wind is stable, more so than it was yesterday, and as Japan start to become a little bit more comfortable with the conditions, we're seeing a lot of development of their long game. They're starting to test the New Zealand deep defenders, particularly against that zone. It opens up a lot of opportunities. A couple of quick passes back and forth across the field. The defense out of position. Just uncorking huge backhands, monster forehands, gaining a lot of yards and trusting the speed of their players to get into position and contest for those discs. Murgatroyd with the pull. Fading towards the near sideline. Shimizu has it. Works around Swinson. Hirase, Ogura, puts one up to Goto. In their offensive half now. Shimizu for the reset. Goto covered by Murgatroyd. Nasu gets the disc, finds Hirase near sideline, working in the midfield. Ryu slightly overthrows Niira, but great offensive flow from the Japanese side. Whitlock for the offense. New Zealand setting up in a vertical stack. Japan starting with match defense. Swinson brings Shimizu under. Not covered tightly enough. Swinson gets the disc. Better position on the field. No yards gained. Forces back to Whitlock. Trying to work up the sideline. Finds Weber. Marked by Niira. Goes back to Whitlock. Swinson with an undercut. Slightly overthrown, but she's chasing it. Manages to come down with it. Mathers in the deep space. The throw's not going to come. Where's the support? She puts up the forehand. Ogura shuts that down. Great work by Ogura to block that one. Japan to start with the disc on offense now. Playing out of a vertical stack. Hirase with a great upline cut, sends one big, looking for Nasu for a great catch. The defense dragged out of position, puts a big forehand up. What a great score. Fantastic work by the Japanese side. 6-4. The score, 6-4. Japan to come out on defense. Watashi wa Nihonjin no energy ga daisuki desu. I love the energy of these Japanese players. playing amazingly well. Such intensity. Huge thanks to Google Translate. And my year 5 Japanese teacher, Miss Ono, taught me the fundamentals of pronunciation. Zara Bowen with the disc on offense. New Zealand looking to set up a side stack, hoping to isolate a player in the middle, but it's Claridge who puts a big one long, looking for Simard. And the pressure. Yamada gets up, stops Simard, pulling down the disc. No score for the New Zealanders this time. Fulton on the disc. There's the big forehand going long. Fades just outside of the far sideline. Kuni in hot pursuit. A vertical stack this time. Bowen to bring the disc in, marked by Yoshida. She puts one up, looking for Kat Fulton. And Fulton comes down with it. What a great grab. New Zealand go 7-4. 1 point away from taking half. New Zealand to play out of defense on the right-hand side of your screen. Mather with the disc to start us off. Pulls low and long. Fielded by Shimizu to Hirase. Shimizu. Nasu cuts under. Marked out by Ogilvy. Thrown past the Japanese receivers. Players in the deep space hoping to pick that one up, but unable to do so. Mather to pick up and initiate, supported by Grant. Ogura shuts down that first up line. Swinson has the disc, marked by Hirase. Nothing developing in the deep space. King Griffin wanted it. Mather gets a great up line. Ogura stops the continuation. Great pressure. Tipped off the hands of Hirase. Clean block. Looks like that'll be a turnover. Great block by Hirase. Japan start off on offense. A great straight cut. Almost unpressured by Swinson on the defense. Mather wants to close this point out. Has to reset. Finds Swinson. Far sideline instead. Hata, great coverage over Sawyer. Nasu selling Ogilvy. Hirase again, but it's King Griffin who comes up with it. Wants to reset to Mather. Unable to get away, to get around Niida. So it's Lewis, far sideline, marked by Ugichi, puts a forehand up. Tessa Swinson with a one-handed grab as New Zealand take half. A fantastic effort so far by both of these teams. New Zealand slightly ahead at this point, but we will take a short break as these teams reconsolidate. Oh, looks like a call has been made. So it appears that a call was made, so we'll hold off on that break. Just a little bit of conversation between these players. Remember that Ultimate is a self-officiated sport, so it's up to players to learn the rules and to make calls as they see fit and resolve them as far as possible. Brianna Murgatroyd, Spirit Captain for the New Zealand Under-20 Women's, joined the field to help provide a bit of perspective and some clarification on any rules. Looks like a pick was called that affected the throw, or possibly not affected the throw, but definitely affected the defender's ability to make a play on the disc. So the disc will return. Lewis on the far sideline. Players back to where they were before the throw went away. Lewis marked by Eguchi. The disc is in, the disc is live. Swinson again trying to go deep. And she's got it this time. Has to go to ground to keep our fingers underneath it, stop it from hitting the turf, but the effort is enough. Possibly another call. Was questionable as to whether or not the disc was up or not. When the pressure is high, even the commentary booth is quick to make judgments. Looks like that disc was in fact down. Japan with an opportunity to work back the other way. Great shot through to Hata. Good find by Shimizu. Trying to create a space for the reset. Hirase's got it, works far sideline to Nasu. Despite a great layout, not able to secure it. Grant on disc, marked by Shimizu. Mather in the reset space. Doesn't need it. Swinson's got it far sideline. Puts one up to Sawyer. Looking back, Grant manages to get an upline. Can't get it cleanly. The shot goes up. Hata's underneath it. She's got it. Waiting for the rest of the offense to catch up. Japanese players hoping to find position. Shimizu gets the disc and calls a timeout. A veteran call. It's been a long point. Both teams have been working hard. Japanese team rushing to grab water bottles for their teammates. Great spirit on display. Just taking a moment for the players to catch their breath, to figure out what the next step is. It's a great call as well, having the timeout called there. Particularly after that long shot to find number 12 for the Japanese side, Hata. And then the reset to Shimizu. Coming back from a timeout allows the offense to set up in a structure that's going to be as advantageous as possible for them, and then let the defense set up whatever structure they're hoping to shut that down. So this is an opportunity for New Zealand to potentially transition to a zone defense, one that's worked really well for them throughout this series. But it also gives the Japanese side an opportunity to really focus in on how best to achieve what they want in this point, which in this case is a score from about 20 meters in front of their attacking end zone and bring it back to a 2-point game. Japan first to break the huddle. There's 7 players on the line. Shimizu with the disc. And it looks like 6 players in a vertical stack, angled away from the thrower to create a lot of space on the far side of the field. Shimizu with the disc, marked by Grant. Hirasi's got a little bit of space from Swinson. There's an opportunity there to cut back towards the near side and receive the disc. Ogura to Nasu to Shimizu. A lot of pressure, but they're able to find it. That structure set up from the timeout. Great work by Japan, leaving a lot of space on that near sideline for a quick undercut, unmarked for possession. And then a nice continuation throw to hit the near side corner of the end zone. Took a couple of attempts at the cuts to get a player open, but they managed it. They pulled it back to a 2-point game. Absolutely amazing effort by both sides. Japan definitely looking for a break chance here to bring it back within one. New Zealand wanting to take half, fielding a strong line. Kat Fulton, Emma Whitlock, Murgatroyd, Gow, Brown. Some very, very aggressive cutters, hoping to leverage that speed and athleticism over the Japanese defense. Some confident throwers who can really put the disc long, especially in conditions like these where there's not a lot of wind, the rain seems to have dried up. Goto with the pull, it's got a little bit of edge. If it touches down, it's going to roll, and it does. Whitlock fields. Claridge was an option early to gain some yards. After a couple of seconds, we see that happening. We see the Japanese zone. Kobayashi starting us off. Really pressuring the disc, so Fulton can't get away, has to go wide. It's up, Claridge is underneath, and she's got it. Puts one up to Whitlock, the zone, looking to shut everything down. Donaldson makes a nice undercut, but the disc swings far side, back to Claridge. It's going to come back to Whitlock. That's what the zone wants to do. Threads one through, straight to Hata. What a great block. This is what Japan wants. Abe with the disc. Supported by Ogura, front of stack. A great cut, a lot of separation. Hata gets away from Claridge, puts one through to Ogura. Kobayashi open on the far side. Finds Goto. Marked by Gao, but a pick's been called in the downfield. Gao will check the disc in, hoping for something to develop downfield. Japan have a strong amount of control over the blades and the wind. Another call. Looks like it may have affected the throw. Kobayashi getting separation from Whitlock, but the line that she picked meant that Whitlock's pursuit was impeded by the positioning of another player. We're a little scrappy towards the end of the first half in this game between the New Zealand under-20 women's team, Kahu, and the Japanese under-20 women's team. Just a little communication as to how play is best to resume. As a self-officiated sport, it is up to the players themselves to determine what the outcome is going to be. So it looks like the pick will be retracted, the turnover will stand. Claridge with the interception. Uses the width. Finds Whitlock, the zone, resets. Brown with a great grab. Finds Fulton to Whitlock. The zone struggling to get in position. Whitlock's put the big forehand up. Gorto in pursuit. But it's Donaldson who comes down with it to take half. New Zealand up by 3 at halftime. Great work by both of these teams. We have it now. 8-5 is our halftime score. Kahu 8, Japan 5. What an exciting last couple of points. The momentum swings back and forth, up and down, left and right. Almost impossible to tell how this game is going to end. We'll be back after a short break to conclude the last match of our tri-series. A dynamic, explosive second half. I, for one, can't wait. My name is Blair Monroe, working with Ulti TV and New Zealand Ultimate, and we'll be back with you shortly. And we are back for the second half of the last match of our 2022 Tri-Series. The final match between under-20 Kahu for New Zealand and the Japanese under-20 side. The score currently 8-5 in favour of New Zealand. Japan to come out on defence. A great roller of a pull. Touches down, rolls out of bounds. Bowen to bring the disc back in. Sugimoto on defense. Bowen goes wide, finds Claridge. Kawaguchi not able to stop the backhand huck. But Yamada can. Japan on offense. Sawayama threads one through to Yoshida. Yamada again, backhand near sideline. Goto pressured by Swinson. But Sawayama walks away with it. Yoshida nice and open. Great work by the Japanese side as the New Zealand zone starts to pressure. Sawayama. Finds Sugimoto. Sawayama again, big backhand, goes over the top. Yamada not able to pull that one down. Zara Bowen pinned down on the sideline. Japanese match defense, very aggressive. Sawyer, nice and open, but gets looked off. Bowen finds Clark. Lawson, far sideline. Kajino on the mark. Claridge manages to get it. Far sideline. Kawaguchi pressuring. The edge touches down early. Clark can't get underneath it. Japan again starting in that 6-1 vertical stack. Calling for help. Kajino can't do it. Lawson pushes that one down. Bowen right in the end zone, sends a big hammer for Claridge with the score. And a cheeky spike. Great first point out of the second half for New Zealand, what they needed to re-establish their position in this game. The score now 9-5. As we come close to the 90th minute of this game. Great work by the New Zealand offense there, working their way past the Japanese defense, finishing big on a hammer. 4 points in it. Still anybody's game. Fulton with the disc for the pull. Shimizu centers to Hirase. Shimizu again. Puts a big forehand up, but Fulton gets a hand to it. What great reflexes. Grant puts one big, looking for Lewis, but it's got to float. Lewis pulls it down. The Japanese defense able to pressure it. She has to go with a big high forehand. It's fading, but it's brought down by Alicia McCoy. As New Zealand go 10-5. Starting to walk away with the second half of the game. Great energy, great intensity from both of these teams, playing incredibly well in what are becoming increasingly less than ideal conditions. The weather's starting to cool a little. Still no wind, but as the rain sets in, the cold starts seeping into the bones. The bodies aren't as responsive. It requires a lot of mental fortitude, a lot of determination to keep those legs firing, to keep that speed up. Once again, the mighty Murgatroyd with the disc for the pull. Kahu signal that they're ready. Japan answers, the pull comes up. What a shot. Once again, that handler core. Shimizu, Hirase, Ogura. That New Zealand zone headed by Swinson, Brown and Simard. Three great defenders who have pressured New Zealand, Japan and Australia this whole weekend. Ogura with an uncharacteristic fumble. Whitlock to pick up, wanting to make it 11-5. Puts a big backhand up for Swinson. Overthrown. It touches down, giving Japan an opportunity to work back the other way. It's just what they need to stay in this game. Japan's offense setting up a little differently. Looks like a 3-2-2. Whereas a more conventional offense from a horizontal stack creates just an open underspace and an open deep space. The 3-2-2 is going to set up some of these Japanese players in the deep space for an immediate continuation once those handlers break past that initial zone. So as Ogura, Shimizu, and Hirase work around that zone, we see Eguchi calling for the disc, trying to threaten that deep space, pressuring Clark. Hirase back around to Shimizu. Swinson hungry on the mark, using the whips now. Disc goes up to Nasu. Despite Donaldson's great bid, Ogura wants to get rid of it. Has to work back with those handlers. Hata on the far sideline, back to Hirase. Eguchi calling for it again. Shimizu to Nasu. Back to Shimizu. Nasu again, Shimizu slowly walking the disc up the field. Ogura shimmying, trying to shift the make. Simard doesn't bite. The disc has to go back wide. Finds Hirase. Hata again. Georgia Brown baiting that up line. It doesn't come. Shimizu lasers one through to Nasu. Wants to put the backhand up. Swinson closes the gap. The rain coming down heavier now. Ogura shimmying again, just trying to get that defense to bite, trying to get them to shift, opening up something that the Japanese can leverage to put a point on the board. Using the wit still, very patient offense from Japan. Hirase back to Shimizu. Ogura. Shimizu again. Hirase wide to Hata. No up line, doesn't come. Georgia Brown shuts that down. A little slip from Ogura, but an injury's been called. So Ayama to substitute for the very impressive Ogura Tomomi. No substitution called. No, substitution will be called. Just checking, making sure that pivot's stable. Doesn't feel like it is. Doing the right thing for the team. So Waiama to pick up. Taking the place of Ogura. Swinson closing in, trying to put the jaws of the New Zealand trap down on the Japanese desk. Hata finds one, goes through the hands of Niida. Whitlock, unmarked, wants to put up a big one. Nasu shuts that down, it comes wide, Simard's looking for it. Shimizu manages to slip inside, getting a hand to it. Sawayama, Hirase, Shimizu available as a support. Sawayama, Nasu again. Shimizu working through that zone, slowly pushing the New Zealand defense further and further back towards their own end zone. Sawayama, Hirase, Hata again. It's going to come back to Hirase, back to Shimizu. Great patience on display from the Japanese. Slowly taking yards, one step at a time. Doing a great job, patiently finding holes despite the aggressive New Zealand defense. Donaldson trying to take a swipe at it, it doesn't come through. Shimizu back to Nasa. Sawayama wide to Hirase. Hata's open. Brown tries to shut that one down. That's what New Zealand were hoping for. A relatively unpressured throwaway. But every pass is an opportunity for a mistake. The more you can force your opponent to string together, the more mistakes you can generate. Whitlock puts up a forehand. Swinson takes it. Marked by Hirase. Clark on the far sideline, marked by Iguchi. Whitlock looking to provide support. It's not necessary. Georgia Brown laser beams one through the hands of Simard for a turn. Once again, we're seeing that 3-2-2 offensive structure. Nasu wide open in the middle space. Sawayama unable to pull that one down. Brown with a great cut. Hata slightly overcommits. Brown slams on the break to find herself open for the score. New Zealand 11 up over Japanese 5. Great patience there on the Kahu offense. That tempo, that quick pace, letting them down a little bit on the previous possession. Threading that laser beam through the hands of the intended receiver. Managing to generate a turn using that aggressive zone defense. And then calmly just waiting for that opportunity to reveal itself. A game to 15. Only a few minutes away from our soft cap. Great long points being played here, just indicative of how aggressive both these teams are hungry on defense, refusing to let those easy points happen where possible. Kawaguchi overthrows. Jane Weber intercepts, finds Bowen. Ogilvy's going. It doesn't come. Resets to Claridge. Cooney gets a touch on it. New Zealand retained possession. That's Alicia McCoy, back to Bowen. calling for the deep space, wanting to hit Jane Weber in the far corner. It's not going to happen. Kawaguchi to shut that down. Lawson's not going to get it. Kawaguchi puts one big and up, looking for Goto. Bowen's underneath. Bowen takes that one down. Lawson slightly overthrows, or slightly undercatches, I suppose. Kawaguchi marked by Ogilvy. Hoping for an isolation. Miura, big fake, trying to get around Weber. Aggressive on the defense. Sugimoto marked by Sawyer. There it is, Goto for the score. Great work by Japan, 11-6 now. Huge hold for the Japanese. Here we are, about to start the next point in the final game of our tri-series. New Zealand, Australia, Japan. Our final match between the under-20 Japanese women's team and Kau, the under-20 New Zealand women's team. Japan to come out on defense. Shimizu with a huge pull. Big crossfield, touches down. Grant to Clark, Japan sending down a defensive zone. Kajino, Kobayashi, Abe firing off that arrowhead. Hata in the mid-space. Lewis manages to get a nice few yards gained. Forced back to find Grant. Clark on a big crossfield. She gets it. Kajino shuts off the continuation. Kobayashi very aggressive on the disc. Goto with a great jump, goes early, forces Swinson to take to the skies. She misses it by just a millimeter. That's a turn for the Japanese to work back the other way. Once again, that 6-1 vertical stack that we're seeing from the Japanese side. The timing for these ladies is amazing. The continuation cuts, the way they time off the throw is amazing. Goto. Great crossfield cut. Finds Shimizu. Eguchi calling for the disc deep. Kajino pressured by Mata. Finds Eguchi anyway. King Griffin hoping to shut that down. Shimizu near sideline. Working to move Lewis. Goes wide. Finds Abe. Kobayashi. Hata, far sideline, marked by Fulton, who's done a huge amount of work for the Japanese, the New Zealand defensive side, rather. Shimizu, back to Abe. Eguchi takes a knee. Disc is in, disc is live. Eguchi finds Shimizu, puts a forehand up, who wants it? Goto for the score again. Some great work by the Japanese side, taking us 11-7, closing the gap. Only a few minutes away from our soft cap. Slight delay for the start of the game. possibly more than a few minutes away from our soft cap. With a game this intense, time is traveling at speeds heretofore unknown to man. Even though I'm wearing a watch, I couldn't begin to tell you how much longer we've got. All I know is that with my nails bitten to the quick from this thrilling display of ultimate here in Tamaki Makaurau, every point feels like it's the only point. Bowen, Brown, Claridge, Whitlock on the offensive line for the New Zealand set. Sawayama, Kuni, Yamada, Abe. Big disc, fading, touches down, out of bounds. Whitlock will take it to center field for the brick. Yoshida covering Alicia McCoy's initial deep cut. Gao covered by Miura. Bowen unable to work upfield. It's fading, but Brown gets it. Sawayama on the defense. Claridge takes the next one. Wide across the field to Whitlock. Puts a big forehand up. Who's underneath it? Alicia McCoy not able to get there in time. Possession goes back to Japan. An opportunity here to make it a 3-point game. The width early finds Sugimoto. Yoshida coming all the way in, drawing the defense down. Despite what looked like a touch by Claridge, it's Miura. Back to Sawayama. Backhand across the field. Sugimoto. Whitlock's chasing. Whitlock's got it. Fires back the other way to find Bowen on the near sideline. Big forehand. A clean line drive. It's fading. McCoy unable to pull that one down. Just towards the end of the flight. Disc fading towards that near sideline. Play stops as we substitute. Ogra back on the field. Already recovered from that slip earlier. And now players live, players free to move as the Japanese side looks to set up their offense. Claridge heading off on the defense, trying to stop any forward progression. Bowen marking that middle space. Miura. Little aggressive on that throw. Sawayama can't hold on to it. Bowen brings it to the outside. Hoping to find an isolation. Finds Claridge for the score. 12-7. New Zealand go up by one more. Some great work by the Japanese there, but not enough. Not enough to shut down the New Zealand offense in the later stages of this game to 15. Fulton with the disc for the pull. Wanting to kick off this next point, hoping for a break. Keeps it low and long. Shimizu. Hirase early. That New Zealand zone. Sawyer keeping it tight, working with Samad, trying to shut everything down. Fulton covering the middle space. Clark in the deep space, hoping to discourage the long throws the Japanese have demonstrated throughout this game. Hirase on a great upline cut to create space for Shimizu. Ogura works the near sideline. Nasu. Shimizu puts a big one up. What a laser throw. Niira to Hirase. Shimizu. Ogura. Nasu again. To Shimizu. So close, just on the doorstep. Only another pass necessary. But they'll look to reset. No, they'll drive up line. Ogura for the score. Great work as Japan go 12-8. 4 points in it. New Zealand still ahead. But a very tight, very hotly contested game. We get to see that again. Not Ogura for the score. But we'll see that slash cut develop there. There it is. Right in front of Ocean Simard. Great movement on that upline, that patience. Ogura engaged here, gets the separation. The disc comes out. Japan go up. Bowen, Whitlock, Grant, Lewis, Mather, Weber, and Swinson. Goto with a big pull. A little bit of skim as it takes New Zealand side a couple of seconds to get there. Plenty of time for Japan to set their defensive structure. Putting one long to Bowen. But Big Bowen not big enough. Harbe with the disc. Kuni. Big fakes, shifting Whitlock. Cross field to Kawaguchi. Miura with the disc now, but a pick spin called. Goto, too much separation from Lewis. So Lewis given an opportunity to catch up. Play will resume. Weber on the disc. Kuni, Goto with a great grab. But it looks like it was not marked out. She caught it in, but her momentum carried her out of bounds. So she'll be given the opportunity to reposition. Players starting moving before the disc is checked live. It's a violation, so players will call, reset to a good position, and then reinitiate the offense. Lewis forcing hard to the far sideline. Kawaguchi. Abe. A great throw. Miura's not able to get it. Some great defensive pressure. Mather might have got a hand to it. Bowen with the disc, marked by Sugane. Whitlocks get it. Off the hands of Lewis. A great leap, a great effort. Possession going back to Japan. Abe goes crossfield. Miura's chasing it. Gets a hand to it. Works up far sideline for Goto. Sugane. Kuni with the grab. Marked by Whitlock. Puts a backhand up. Goto again with the score. Point after point for number one for the Japanese under-20 side. We go 12-9. It is a 3-point game. There's the backhand again. Wide open, Goto takes a knee and the score. 3 points in it. New Zealand to come out on defense. Goto with a big pull. Sends it down, it gets a roll. Some free yards. New Zealand set up in that side stack again, trying to isolate Kat Fulton in the mid-space. Has to work back. Finds Claridge. Clark. Has to work back. Gets the disc to Fulton. Clark with a backhand, finds Murgatroyd near sideline. Kuni on the defense. Great closure by Sawayama. Disc goes high, but Sawayama says no. And this time it's Alicia McCoy with the denial, going back the other way. Claridge wants to put one big. Instead, has to go to reset to Clark midfield. There's the big one, a little bit misthrown, but Gao gets it. Great work by Gao, 13-9. New Zealand still up by 4. 2 points away from a New Zealand victory. But still plenty of time for the Japanese side to stage a comeback. They have the patience. They have the skills. But right now, it's New Zealand that has the momentum. Simard, Ogilvie, Donaldson, Sawyer, Lawson, Mather and Swinson for the New Zealand defensive line on this point. Ogura, Shimizu, Hirase, Niida, Higuchi. So it looks like our cap went during that point. And so it'll be a game to 14 in the final game of our Tri-Series Trans-Tasman event, New Zealand, Australia, Japan. Shimizu, Hirase, Ogura, far sideline for Nasu back. Hirase again, Hata. Pressure by Ogilvy forcing the disc back and around. Shimizu just inside that arrowhead. Wants to put up a big forehand. Nasu with a quick bounce to help keep the stall count low. Hirase, Hata. Shimizu to pick that one up. Works up with Ogura. Nasu far sideline. Some great gains by the Japanese side here. Shimizu, Hirase. Can't connect with Hata. So it's Stacey Mather to start us off as New Zealand push, trying to get the last point on the board. Swinson gets it. Ogura on the mark. Mather with a great upline. Doesn't uncork it. The pressure's there. Goes up. Finds Donaldson. High and over the top of the Japanese defense. Mather manages to get the reset, but it looks like a stall was counted. Possibly contested. So just some communication about the stall count before play will resume. Possibly a turnover. Once again, Brown and Murgatroyd, spirit captain for the Kahu, to take the field and just provide a bit of clarification when necessary. So where the count happens in a game of Ultimate, it's always preceded by the word stalling. And each second, each number uttered represents the end of that second. So stalling 1 second has passed. By the time you utter the first syllable, the first sound of 10, the t, that is sufficient to be a stall count. But it looks like that was contested. The stall would have dropped to 8. Donaldson overthrows Swinson but finds Simard. Iguchi on the mark. The disc doesn't lie, as they say in Ultimate. Shimizu wanted to uncork it early. Nasu to Shimizu, power position, but Mather shuts it down. Nasu unmarked, back to Shimizu. Back to Nasu, far sideline. Hirase wants it, gets it. Very close to the end zone. A great point available here for the Japanese if they want to take it. Shimizu managing to cut around the defense to put a big shot up. Hirase can't get there. New Zealand possession going back the other way for what may be the last time. Swinson pushes under. Gets the disc, can't do much with it, has to go back to Lawson. Lawson tries to go wide. Despite great bid by Hata, Simard comes down with it. Niida shuts off an undercut, has to go back to Lawson. Hirase on the mark. Swinson over Nasu. Resets. Lawson manages to get that despite great pressure. Sawyer has it, finds Ogilvy, but Ogura comes through, closes that one out. Shimizu marked by Donaldson. Lasers one through to Hirase. And up the line is available. Shimizu takes it, puts the big forehand up, looking for Niida. Little bit of a misconnect there. Possession going back to New Zealand. Mather to pick up and start us off. New Zealand setting up in a vertical stack in the middle of the field, creating those channels along the near and far sideline. Hoping for long opportunities. As a great switch by the Japanese defensive side means Ogilvy doesn't get the undercut she was looking for. Lawson to Swinson. Simard going deep, marked by Ogura. Bails out of the cut. Sawyer on an under. Niida. Lawson with a drop. Uncharacteristic. She's been really secure in that handle space so far, but it's Shimizu with the disc, marked by Mather. A laser throw through. Despite the best efforts of Eguchi and Niida. The disc touches turf. We'll run it back, we'll play it again. Mather to initiate. Swinson starting at the back of the stack. She's going to push under. Hata waiting. Great bracketing by the Japanese defense to shut that deep cut down. Niida and Nasu stopping any progress up the field. It's Donaldson who gets it wide. Shimizu, with what looked like might have been a touch, pushes the disc to turf. Ogilvy, unable to get it. Amazing vision by Nasu to find that. Shimizu back to Nasu. Shimizu again, looking for Hata. The layout, but it's not going to be enough. The patience, the ferocity, the tenacity from both these teams to keep pushing, to keep grinding. Swinson gets the under this time. Sawyer tries to push deep. Swinson holding onto the disc. Finds Ogilvy despite a bidding Sawyer. Same team, ladies. Lawson under pressure. A great point block by Hirase Haoto. Shimizu with the disc. Nasu trying to work across the front of the handle space. Hirase gets it. Not a lot happening in the downfield space. Tries a quick reset to Shimizu, but Mather puts the pressure on. The turn comes. Simard's going. Simard can't get there. Looks like an injury's been called. Big Bowen to take the substitution. Disc is now live. Possession is Japanese. Little confusion as to on the field as to who's on offense. But Japan picks it up. Hirase to Eguchi. Shimizu, secure hands. Ogura lasers one through to Hata. Back to Shimizu, there's space on the width of the field. Ogura gets the disc. Bowen shuts off that throwing lane. Shimizu goes wide. Hirase not able to recover in time. Sarah Bowen Wants to fire off the forehand, has to go backwards. Finds Lawson in the center field. Another point block for Hirase. Some great defensive pressure there. Great reflexes. Shimizu to Hirase. The wind gets under it. And then Swinson gets under it. Bowen wanting something in the deep space. Ogilvie the only threat up there. Mathers undercut, looked off. Bowen uncorks it. Ogilvie chasing. Pressure from Ogura. It's not going to come away. Timeout called. A veteran call. It has been a long point. What could very well be the last point of the game if New Zealand are able to generate a turn and secure a score. But Japan in possession. The last game of the day in the 2022 Tri-Series. Last game of the tournament. The last ultimate these sides will play before we say goodbye to our Japanese friends. A huge moment for both of these teams. New Zealand hungry to close out the game with a score. Japan not ready to stop fighting just yet. So Japan to initiate. Again, that 6-1 vertical stack. New Zealand positioning because they're not scared of the deep threats. Mather on defense. Hirase, first of stack, reset. Gets looked off. Shimizu finds Nasu, back to Shimizu. Hirase wide open. Over Donaldson. Holsters it. Tries for the upline to Shimizu, but Mathers just inside, able to get a hand to it. Zara Bowen. Lawson has a reset. Swinson's going deep. Covered by Nasu. There's the forehand. Swinson wants it. And Swinson comes down with it over Nasu for the score and the game. 14-9, a fantastic performance by both of these teams, demonstrating the very best in Ultimate for the Southern Hemisphere and for the world, for your viewing pleasure here in Tamaki Makaurau at Auckland Grammar and at home from the comfort of your couch. It is an absolute pleasure to have been here with you the entire time to talk you through the ups and downs, the highs and lows as these nations have clashed. The youth of Ultimate certainly looking strong. My name, as always, is Blair Munro. It's been a privilege to be here with the Ulti TV crew with the support of New Zealand Ultimate. Head on over to patreon.com/UltiTV. And if you like what you see and you want to support these young athletes, take their skills not only to Australia, to Japan, to our nearest neighbours, but also to a global stage and demonstrate the very best of the New Zealand attitude towards sports and athleticism, communication, self-officiation, determination. Check the link in the description, buy a virtual ticket, to an event like this and help us take these athletes to even greater heights. As I said, my name is Blair Monroe. It's been an absolute privilege to be here with you. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you for the next one.